right, Math Leaguers. This is your final midweek hints video. And once again, it's not quite midweek. We've been trying to do Wednesdays, but we got it out for you on Thursday, hopefully. And so anyway, I picked out 4 problems from this week just to give you some hints on. One of them was the one that I found on like Facebook and just copied and pasted onto my sheet. And I didn't color them completely, but it asked what is the, this is number 15. It asks what is the ratio of the blue area, we can kind of call it like black area, to the red area. And so the problem was it didn't give you any distances. It didn't give you any numbers, but it did give these little hash marks saying that these 4 distances were all the same. So I thought to myself, well, let's make up a number. If they're all the same, let's make them all 1. Okay? And then we thought, well, everything's in the same proportion. Whether this is like slanted like this or slanted way out, as long as this line comes down at the same slope, everything's in the same proportion. So I thought, let's make this basically a 45, 45, 90 triangle where this is also 1, 1, 1, 1. So that's 4 across, 4 high, okay? So then what I literally did is I said, well, okay, let's break out the little red pieces. And if we have a right triangle here with a height of 1 and a base of 1, then the area of that triangle is 1 times 1, which is 1, but then divided by 2 because it's a triangle, so it's 1/2. If we have a trapezoid here, so I pulled out the trapezoid, and this distance would be 2, and this distance would be 3, and of course the height of the trapezoid would be 1. I don't know if you remember how to find the area of a trapezoid. There's a fancy formula, base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. I like to do the Goldilocks formula. The big base is too big, the small base is too small. So find the base that's just right, which would be halfway in between 2 and 3, which would be 2.5. Then you times it by the height. Well, luckily we made the height 1, so that made it easy. Okay, so I pulled out these 2 pieces for you. That's where we're going to leave it off. Okay, remember this is the hints. I'm not going to do the whole problem for you. Number 16, I don't know that we've had one of these during session 2. So people who were in session 1 probably already knew how to do this, or maybe they learned how to do it during session 1. But it's write a fraction for a repeating decimal, but where the whole thing's not repeating. So like if I were to write, I'm just gonna write here, if I were to write like 235 and the whole thing was repeating, that's 235 over 999, okay? If I were to write 15 and it's both repeating, 15, 15, 15, it's 15 over 99. Okay, if I were to write 0.4 repeating, it's 4 over 9. Okay, so what we have here though is we have a repeating, so now I didn't do the exact problem, I did a similar problem. What we have is a repeating sign, a vinculum, over the top of the 3 and the 5, but not the 2. So what do we have? Well, we have, like, it's an addition problem. We have 2 in the 10th place, so we have 2/10. We also have 35/99. 35/99 of what? Not 35/99 of a whole, but 35/9 35/99ths of the way to having another tenth. So 35/99ths of times a tenth. And then I multiply those, I get 35 over 990. And then I add my fractions. I need a common denominator of 990. So I multiply top and bottom here by 99. 2 times 99 is 198 over 990 plus 35 over 990 is 233 over 990. Now I got lucky here. It just so happens 233 is a prime number, so I can't reduce it anymore. All right. Number 19, same thing. We had one of these in session 1. I don't think we've had any in session 2. It's list all the factors of a certain number. Well, it can be a little tedious, right? If I say list the factors of, I don't know, 24, you can say 1 goes in, 2 goes in, 3 goes in, 4 goes in, 5 doesn't go in, 6 goes in, 7 doesn't, 8 goes in, 12 goes in, and 24 goes in. You kind of just have to write them all out. But there's a trick, which is to find the factors of anything. So I picked a random number, 450, a big number like what you have on your sheet. And I said, find how many factors there are for 450. So I did the prime factorization. I don't know if you guys have learned this. Make your factor tree. I did 45 times 10. I split the 10 into 5 times 2. Those are both prime. This is 5 times 9. 5 is prime. I split the 9 into 3 times 3. And you write out the prime factorization. It's 3 times 3, which is 3 to the second power, times 5 times 5, which is 5 to the second power, times 2, there's only one 2, so 2 to the first power. It's a really cool trick, but it just so happens, if you take the exponents on all of these and add 1 to it, 2 and 1 is 3, 2 and 1 is 3, 1 and 1 is 2, and you multiply those numbers, it will tell you how many factors there are for that number. Really cool trick. And then finally, this one, number 11, I got a square inside a square, and it asks, if you know this length, 10, I probably should have chosen a different number. That's okay. All right, for the hint, because this is what it really is in the real thing. It's asking, what is the area of this rectangle? And it says that these are bisected perfectly. So you know something about that then, right? It means that this is a 45-degree angle and this is a 45-degree angle, and that's 90, and then these two are right here are equal, right? These two things right here are equal. So I just pulled out this triangle and I put variables. I just say, like, how about x? And I use my Pythagorean theorem, which says a squared, 2 legs of a right triangle, a squared plus b squared is c squared. The legs are a and b. They happen to be the same in this case. I chose the letter x. So I got an x squared and another x squared is, c is the hypotenuse, 10 squared. Okay, well, if I have an x squared and x squared, I have 2 of those x squareds, and 10 squared is 100. Well, if 2 of those x squareds is 100, then 1 of those x squareds is 50, which means that x is the square root of 50. Okay? Now, I put a h over here for the height. All these are the same. So, this is the square root of 50. This is the square root of 50. So is this. Okay, so I just randomly chose like h. What is the height of this square? Well, it's 2 of those square root of 50s. I'm not going to take you to the last step, but you should know how to find the area of a square. All right. Hope those were good hints, and hope to see some of you in the Kahoot tonight. There's still lots of wrapping up to do. We got to wrap up this weekend, turn all of our stuff in. We got to have another raffle, especially if you guys weren't with us the first session. We're going to have a little raffle. The prizes are still kind of being developed, but there are some t-shirts out on Miss Tanya's website, some cool math t-shirts that you can get. And we're still working on more t-shirts. I know I've been saying that for like 5 weeks now. It's been great. And we'll see you one more time with the week 5 wrap up. And we'll have to do the last joke of the summer, which is going to probably be the worst joke yet. All right.